and welcome to We Believe Digital Newsbreak. Chris Young with you today to run through some stories. We've got so much going on here at this We Believe Digital Studios, downtown Jackson on Livingston Road behind the Medical Mall. We've got all kinds of potential over here as an emerging media company to help you with whatever your goals are. You know, maybe you've got a message that you need to put on a podcast or a commercial that you need to cut, some filming done, TV commercials for upcoming political campaigns, all sorts of stuff that can be done over here by our young crew. It's really savvy, and we have some partners also throughout the area that have special expertise in certain things that we can work with. But please give us a call, 1-800-492-5186, and maybe we can help you to meet your needs of moving your thoughts or goals farther, moving your brand, your product, your services. Let us advertise for you, get you on the air, get you seen out there to a wider audience. So let's roll on with the global news stories that seem to pop out. I mean, there's so many stories, but really. First, these Patriot missiles. The U.S. has promised Patriot missiles to Ukraine for a good long while now. Well, they finally arrived. The actual number is not being disclosed, but this essentially provides Ukraine with a defense system, a shield against Russian airstrikes that have been, well, you know, we've seen the pictures on the news and all, just devastating, you know, putting massive holes in apartment buildings and devastating shopping areas and hotels and all kinds of things. So this will help fortify their defenses against Russian airstrikes. The United Nations, a story about population growth. The United Nations says that now India is on track by the middle of this year to surpass China as the world's most popular nation. So something like by 2.9 million, which is really not such a big deal when you're talking about, you know, 1.42 billion people versus 1.441 billion people in China. So within just a couple of months, it appears that India will be the most populous nation on the earth. I didn't even know there was such a thing as drone boats. I thought all drones flew through the air. Not so anymore. The U.S. Navy sailed a drone boat through the Straits of Hormuz, a very important body of water that lies between the countries of Iran and Oman. And it's a narrow passage. You got to go through there to get to the Arabian Gulf, to the Persian Gulf, and so this boat, which was sailed by the Navy in international waters, is 41 foot long speedboat. Carries all kinds of cameras and sensors, so you can put an unmanned boat there and collect information, find out what's going on over there, see the movements of other countries, and see what other folks are up to with an unmanned drone boat. Interesting name of the boat is called the L3 Harris Arabian Fox Mast 13. Quite a lengthy name for this 41-foot speedboat. So there you have it. And that's on the global side. On the national side, Fox News and Dominion, I mean, they were scheduled to start yesterday. The court proceedings, the jurors had been seated, and they reached a settlement. And so just literally an hour or two before the hearing was supposed to start, they announced a settlement. Originally, Dominion had sued for $1.6 billion. They settled for $787.5 million on this defamation trial that was just about to kick off. And this is about the voting machines during the 2020 election, and Fox News and many of its, personalities, laying false claim to the inaccuracy or the manipulable nature of the voting machines that are owned by Dominion Research, which is located in Denver. So a really big thing there, and consequently, there's some, there's word in the TV journalism personality, info TV world, however you want to say that this is going to have the effect of helping people to tighten up on things. When a company like that can launch such a big lawsuit and start, be in a position to hold other people accountable for their slander and their libel, it sends shockwaves through the rest of the news world. So hopefully that can lead to more transparency, more honesty, and not just spewing falsehoods. Andrew Lester, not sure if people know that name better by now or the name Ralph Yarl, Y-A-R-L. Ralph Yarl was the 16-year-old that went to the wrong door in Kansas City and going to pick up family members. And he went to the wrong door, and this 84-year-old white man just started shooting him. The guy's name is Andrew Lassiter. And this morning he was released from custody. He posted a $200,000. Fortunately, the shooting was not fatal, but nonetheless, I mean, just because you're black and you ring the wrong doorbell or knock the wrong door, why do you have to have people shooting at you? It's just a horrible thing. Supposedly happened at 10 o'clock at night. Lester did surrender, but he had made lots of comments to the young man about don't be coming around here no more. I mean, it's just very clear the guy's racist as all get out. And so he was charged with one count of felony assault in the first degree and one count of armed criminal action, which is also a felony. So 84-year-old Andrew Lester out on bond, and we'll be coming back to answer those charges. Meanwhile, Ralph Yarl, 16-year-old, is doing much better. He's out of the hospital and can begin starting to move on with his life. But it just takes these things to remind us, because I don't know if other people are guilty of this, but I know I'm guilty. Every so often I get to thinking that things have changed, but no, I think maybe they just go undercover. It doesn't appear that things have really changed. More shooting relating in the next topic. So here we are in the month of April, the 19th of April, and so far the United States has had 163 mass shootings so far this year. More mass shootings than the number of days so far that we've seen since January 1st. Really, really sad. The Gun Violence Archive keeps track of all that stuff. And just as a reminder, in order for it to be considered a mass shooting, it has to be at least 4 people involved in order to call it a mass shooting. So sooner or later, we'll do something about this gun violence. I know earlier this year, President Biden signed an executive order attempting to implement various forms of gun control. Not heavyweight stuff, but it's an effort. At least it's an effort. And as we've reported to you on this show, and I think on the Monday Night Sizzling in Mississippi show, the House passed a significant gun control piece of legislation, but then when it got to the Senate, it stalled, and that was just last month. And so, they just don't think, they have the votes for it over there. So we'll see how that plays out. In the meantime, we continue to have these mass shootings. We continue to see our children killed. And we've told you before that child gun death is now the leading cause of child death in the country. It was in the year 2020 when it surpassed automobile accidents as the leading cause of child death. So this country's, is it a fair statement? This country's fascination with guns is putting our children in caskets. It's a tough situation. I don't see anybody trying to take anybody's guns away, but these assault weapons that are classically used in these mass shooting deaths, these schools and movie theaters and grocery stores and banks and all that kind of stuff. These are assault weapons, and maybe they just need to be in the hands of the military, not in the hands of the civilian population. So we'll see how that plays out, over time. When we turn to Mississippi, and we're getting a couple minutes away from our first break, but when we turn from the national side down to Mississippi, again, we remind that today's another day that the Republican legislature has not even held a hearing on the TANF scandal, that really started about 6 years ago, but was brought to light about 2 to 3 years ago, and all happening under Republican leadership, and yet no one over there. And even, of course, like you don't hear the governor. Of course, he's involved through this fitness boot camp situation. But, you don't hear the lieutenant governor. You don't hear Philip Gunn. You don't hear any of the the elected representatives over there saying publicly, hey, we need to have hearings on this. We need to find out what's going on. As a legislative body, we didn't even know what was going on because the people that allowed the grift, the people that allowed the theft of these tens of millions of dollars, some reports say up to $100 million, others tend to stop around 74, 76 million. But nonetheless, that's all taxpayer money that Mississippi gets from the federal government. And nobody thinks the legislature ought to get to the bottom of that. So it's convenient for them to let the legal people try to get to the bottom of that, and they remain mute, on the topic. The Democrats have held a couple of different hearings. Republicans done nothing. Never speak about it. So one more little blip here. Medical marijuana. Medical marijuana, that's, you're talking big time money. So here we are in Mississippi with our medical marijuana, and due to a new state law, the state has to hire more people to process all these applications that are coming in for licenses. And, they say they were trying to process an application within 30 days. But the state law now, a new state law says, no, you can't have 30 days, which they were rarely getting to anyway. It was more like 60 days. But now they have to process each application within a 10-day period of time. So 5 additional staffers to help with that. And so far, I think this article was the day before yesterday, and so from Mississippi Today, actually. And so far, 6,500 permits have been issued, licenses, if you will. Medical marijuana cards, same thing. So we'll just stop there for a second. We've got a couple of commercials, and then we'll come on back to you for the second segment of our show.
Looking for the hottest content in the city of Jackson and surrounding areas? Check out WeBelieveDigital.com. Also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. We Believe Digital Podcast is here for all your podcasting needs.
The Mississippi Link is an African-American female-owned newspaper with a trusted voice that is highly respected throughout the city, state, and nation. Our motto, Keepers of the Knowledge for People Who Speak the Truth, since 1993. Link significantly influences the thoughts, attitudes, and buying decisions of its readers. Call us at 601-368-8481 for your advertising needs. If you would like to receive a newspaper in the mail each week, our annual subscription is only $52 per year. That is only $1 per week for you to stay informed regarding many stories that you can only get in the Mississippi Link. Sign up today at themississippiLink.com and click on Home Delivery.
And welcome back to We Believe Digital Newsbreak. Glad you're joining us today. We're just working our way down to stories that are going on here in Mississippi. And another big story hit the news yesterday. Many outlets carried this about this Chris McDaniel. This is a staunch right conservative, right-wing nationalist, however you want to look at that. Conservative doesn't necessarily mean the same thing today as it did 20 years ago in America. But this guy, had to return, these illegal campaign contributions against the state law in Mississippi. He had set up a political action committee called Hold the Line, which is what a great name for a white nationalist. Hold the line. Because these people are terrified, by the browning of America. They're just terrified by that. Instead of viewing that as a great and wonderful thing, they want to view that as a horrible thing. But $460,000 to a place called the American Exceptionalism Institute. The American Exceptionalism Institute. Who you think that's all about? And so he ended up having to pay the money back and close down the PAC, the Political Action Committee. He's running for lieutenant governor. He's run for higher office twice before, lost both times. He's really out there. I mean, we have a lot of conservative legislators in Mississippi, but he's as far out on the right end of things as you can get. Interesting when you listen to him, when he's interviewed and so forth, he's got a way of saying things that it just seems so harmless. But then when you look at the actions and you look at the floor debates at the Capitol, it's not good stuff. So Chris McDaniel, got to follow the law there, Mr. McDaniel, conservative Republican McDaniel. So next story in Mississippi about hospitals. And I'm always a little leery when talking about hospitals and money because, man, oh man, the folks at the Mississippi Hospital Association are saying, and I think this was to the Clarion Ledger, saying that from this last cycle of funding, they're expecting about $450 million. In the final analysis, that turned out to be about $42 million. So they got to divvy that up. They were looking at changing the formula so that you had, sort of like the difference between what Medicaid would pay and what the actual costs were, and then the legislature would help infuse to that to fill that gap a little bit. So, we'll see how that turns out. Of course, we know we do not have Medicaid expansion, and so we have hundreds of thousands. The conservative estimate is maybe 300 and some thousand, but I've seen estimates up to 500,000 people in Mississippi. So 500,000, and we don't quite have 3 million. So that's a massive chunk of the population that's poor, diseased, downtrodden, that just do not have the funds to pay for insurance. And so they get nothing in Mississippi. They do the best they can do to crumbs and free clinics and sliding scale and things like that, but they don't have a chance to have the same insurance as the guy or gal next to them, that's in a lot more fortunate situation than they are. So sad. So we'll see what happens with these hospitals getting the money, and a lot of times services will be rendered that are not paid for at hospitals, and they can write that off at the end of the year. So we'll see what happens with that. In Jackson and Hinds County, man, oh man. So on Monday, now you've heard this maybe because here we are Wednesday, so I know you've heard this, but Monday started over at the Chancery Court with a special judge by the name of H. David Clark, a retired Chancery Court judge. He said he spent over 30 years on the Chancery Court as a judge. And that's your family court, right? And that's your divorce court, and you learn a lot of stuff. You learn a lot of stuff about human behavior and people working together and people not working together. Anyway, in this Chancery Court on the third floor, courtroom 1, where every last made big picture of previous judges on the wall, they're all pale. In the blackest state, in the blackest city in America, they're all not one black judge has ever that's been their courtroom. Anyway, so Judge Clark started to hear arguments about the city of Jackson suing the mayor of Jackson over inaction regarding the trash contract. And what the judge really said was, this is a travesty. You can't sue yourself. He said, this has no business being here. And he went on to listen a little bit to what the city attorney's legal counsel had to say. Then he listened to what the mayor's legal counsel had to say. Then after getting permission from both sides, he listened to the city attorney, Katoria Martin. Brilliant human being. He listened to her, and then he listened to one other city attorney, Drew something. And then he decided to take a 15-minute recess, talk to the parties kind of behind closed doors for a minute, away from the cameras. He had told them before the recess, you're not serving the people. What's missing here is compromise. You guys are fighting with each other, and it is political in nature, which they conceded. And so they took a 15-minute recess that turned into 45 minutes. And the judge came back out and said, look, this shouldn't be here. Here's what we're going to do. We've scheduled a continuation of this hearing for 9 a.m. tomorrow. But we're going to go in the back here, and we're going to sit down, and we're going to talk. And we're going to have discussions. We're going to talk face to face. And we're going to do everything we can do to right this ship, is what he said. And hopefully we don't have to have the hearing tomorrow morning. Well, lo and behold, an adult showed up in the room, and about 5 hours later, they were announcing that a settlement, had been agreed to. And what that really involved in, it was really no change for any of the other council members, but it was a change for Ward 6. Pastor Councilman Aaron Banks changed his vote. Now, he's been steadfast against anything that didn't say waste management for a year and a half, 2 years, something like that. But now all of a sudden he's changed his vote, and they came to an agreement. And so that permitted a 1-year emergency contract to go through. And then yesterday afternoon at 2:30, they codified that. They actually took the vote. And it was a 4-2 vote. And you had Ashby Foote, the council president, who the day before on Monday afternoon was standing in front of the cameras, trying to, paint a picture of leadership or, the council figured out a way to get this done, and et cetera, et cetera. And in the meantime, we saved the city $160,000 a month from what they were asking us for last week. And, trying to make himself out to be somebody he's not. But then the very next day, he voted no for the contract. So, this is what people like this do, people in positions of power, and it wasn't like Richards had reduced their price. They're still going to get paid the same $808,000 a month that they've been getting for the last 12 months, now that they're getting paid, because they weren't paid at all for the first 6 months. But they had talked about, if we did go to an additional emergency contract, they would increase the price a bit. And they decided not to do that. So I don't know how that was Mr. Foote saving the council $160,000 a month. We're still paying the same amount for trash this month that we were last month and the month before that. So just to clear that up. And then you had a councilwoman from Ward 7, where I stay at. She was saying, oh my gosh, on Monday afternoon, what a long day. It's been such a long day. I don't think any of us got breakfast or lunch. Just sort of tone deaf. I mean, you have 17 days worth of trash piling up in Jackson, yards and driveways and containers and streets and businesses, and you got people trespass and dump their trash on the other guy's lot, all this going on, and she talking about she don't think nobody got a chance to have breakfast or lunch. So take a survey of how many people in Jackson really care if Councilwoman Virgie Lindsay had a chance to have breakfast or lunch while they got their trash piled up in the street. So just to give you a fuller, that kind of stuff going on over there. And again, the vote was yesterday afternoon. So the contract, the 1-year emergency contract with Richards, is approved, and they've already begun picking up trash today. So obviously it's going to be a minute to catch up, but I got a sneaking suspicion it's going to be sooner than many of us would think it will be. They're ready to jump all over that and get going. So Foote and Hartley opposed. Stokes was not in attendance, so you just had 6 votes as opposed to 7. Stokes was not there. Don't know why that is. And then Councilwoman Lee, Councilman Dr. Brian Grizel, Councilwoman Virgie Lindsay, and now Councilman Minister Aaron Banks voted for the contract. So finally, after a solid 18 months, if not even a little longer than that, finally Richards got the 4 votes it needed. So we'll see what happens going forward, and of course we'll keep you apprised of that here on We Believe Digital Newsbreak and other shows that are on We Believe Digital. So that's the gist of the stories for today. Wednesday, hopefully have a little bit fuller list on Friday. So much changes, so much going on here. We've got about 70 degrees in Jackson now, kind of heading for about 81, 82 degrees. I don't think we have any bad weather coming till a little bit into the weekend. But we thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you for being mindful of We Believe Digital. Be sure to like the shows if you like them. Share them with your friends. Set up the notifications so you get reminded of your favorite shows. And take good care of one another and stay safe.